You're listening to today's 830 WCCO. The name of the documentary, Body of War, it's playing in town right now, and this weekend you can go see it. I'll give you more information on that in a little while. Phil Donahue, the co-director, executive producer, of course, everybody recognizes the voice too, is with me. Thank you, Phil, so much.
Thank you for the invite, Jack.
When we talk about one of the co-stars of this surprises me too, because he starts out almost at the beginning, and he really does refute the point that President Bush says everybody agreed with this. We all agreed we were going to war, and yet he sits there with the Constitution that he keeps in his pocket all the time and brings it out and says, we cannot do this. And the majority of at least Democrats in the House of Representatives agreed with him, and there were a good number of Democrats and even one Republican in the U.S. Senate, Lincoln Chafee, right?
Yeah.
Who voted against that resolution too.
That's true. And by the way, almost every person of color in Congress voted no. I just think that's interesting. It's largely ignored and uncommented upon. It is true that only 23 senators voted no. And you're right about Lincoln Chafee. And by the way, the only Republican to vote no in the Senate. That's taken going it alone to a new level. And by the way, he was defeated for re-election.
Yeah, I remember we had him on the show not that long ago, and I sat down and I talked with him about that, and I thought, principle is a rare thing in this world where you seem to flip-flop back and forth based upon wherever the wind seems to be blowing, and that's basically all sides some of the time.
It's true. But what you saw in this film, Jack, our film weaves the debate on the Iraq War throughout the film. So you see how we got there. And what you saw is a bumper sticker, shallow, superficial debate in which many members of the House and Senate just took the talking points from the White House and read them on the floor of the Senate and the House. A smoking gun will become a mushroom cloud. That's a White House talking point. That was written by the WIG, W-H-I-G, White House Iraq Group. These were the advertising agency warriors. These are the people who name our invasions. Shock and awe. Imagine. Rolling thunder. We look like we're not a serious nation. And these are the people who wrote that facilitated, that were successful in scaring the people. This is the politics of fear. It works every time. All you got to do is scare the people, and they'll follow you anywhere. No less a historic 20th century figure than Hermann Goering, the Nazi. The Nazi made this point. So our film merely attempts to show a consequence of this vote and to show how superficial it was.
A poignant moment in Body of War for me was when Thomas Young was down in Texas to see Cindy Sheehan.
Right.
And they were all in the tent, and everybody had their back to him singing America, America, America.
Yeah.
And he was in his wheelchair, head down, because he was so dizzy by himself. And I thought to myself, this is tragic.
Yeah, it's a sad moment, really. I'll tell you this: the scene I still can't get through. I mean, they wheel Thomas up to the rope. You remember this? And there's people. Gold Star families are behind the rope, and they're holding pictures of their loved ones who died. And Thomas is wheeled up to them, and for a moment he becomes a surrogate for their loved ones. They reach over and they touch him. They stroke his cheek. They kiss him. And for a moment they are allowing themselves to believe that they're kissing and touching the loved one whom they will never touch again. I mean, you can see the pain on their faces. And they're so grateful to see and be able to touch Thomas Young. And here's a 20-something kid who has an unusual amount of insight. He gives it to them. He lets them have it. He lets them kiss him. He lets them touch him. He understands what they're doing. I just have so much respect for the way he responded to that very intimate moment that was so sad. Wow.
Do you think that's part of this transformation? I mean, lest we say that this is all down, it's not, because what I watched here was the growth of this young man. I try to contemplate being that age and having the experience. I never could, obviously, but I literally watch his growth. And it's pretty astounding. I think that moment must have been a big part of it, don't you?
You know, it's true. This is an unusually insightful kid. And you're right about our movie. Our movie will make you cry. Our movie will also make you laugh. Our movie, as you say, is really an inspirational story about a family whose lives have been turned upside down by this injury to their firstborn child. And as you also saw, his younger brother's in Iraq. His younger brother volunteered to go to Iraq. Why? I'm not sure. And his mother makes the point, I could get him out, but he wants to go. And he's 21. Mothers don't get to order their kids around when they get to be 21. So he's there now. So you see in our film a scene where this mother is standing next to a son in a wheelchair and weeping as she hugs goodbye her second son, going to the same war that put her first son in a wheelchair. I mean, this is a family split. This is a red and blue family. Heartland, working class family, Kansas City, Missouri, a mother. You look up Mommy, there's a picture of this woman I'm telling you, you see her looming. She worries about how many blankets were on her son when he was at Walter Reed. All of the temperature of the room. Are his meds on time? This is a wonderful story of a family trying to help this young man. And Jack, you're right. You see this young man. I want to call him a kid. I'm old enough to do that. But he's 28 now. And you see him trying to put his life back together.
You know, Phil, hold that thought. When we come back, let's talk more about that. Let's talk about more of the cost here. We talk about the cost of this war, and this is deeper than I was expecting as well. Again, Phil Donahue is my guest, the co-director, executive producer of Body of War. It airs right here in town. Stay with us. This is today's 830 WCCO.